All right. Well, welcome to Baztec Ice Team first ice fishing podcast. Uh, I'm Ray Ruiz. I'm the owner and founder of Baztec Fishing, and I have a very, very special guest with me today. My homie, my brother, mi carnal. Um, before I introduce him, I just want to say it's an honor to be here with you today, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is a lot of fun. We already did a podcast prior to this, and this is going to be super fun. This is our first official ice fishing podcast for a lot of reasons. One of the main ones is there was no ice, right? So, without further ado, I want to introduce my good friend Phil Bedon, and the Mexican Frenchman. He's a good buddy of mine. He recently joined Baztec Pro Staff. He's the guy who had inspired Baztec Ice Team because he's part of the Clam Pro Staff, part of the Clam Ice Team, and he's been gracious enough to support us, been gracious enough to be part of our team now, and now we're stronger, we're better with you on. So I just want to say thanks, man, for being here. Thank you for being part of our team. It's exciting. And before we go into who you are and all that, because our audience definitely wants to hear about that, I want to give a shout out and to the folks that actually make this possible. Um, Shell's Brewing Company, one of our awesome supporters and sponsors of the podcast, and not only of our podcast, but of our outreach events. Stay with us because throughout this podcast, we have some giveaways. Well, we have one giveaway we're going to be giving away like in what I say we'll fill in a week or two, and we're going to reveal what that is. But you got to stay tuned. You can't just listen a little bit. Come on, you got to listen to our podcast, please. Please like and subscribe and share. And again, I want to thank the Shells family, the Marty family, for their great support. Also want to thank Clam Outdoors, Matt Johnson, and the pro staff there. They're incredibly supportive. They've been nothing but like amazing to Bass Tech Fishing, and now we have Bass Tech Ice Team. And again, thanks to you, thanks to Clam, thanks to Shells. Just overall, without them, we couldn't do this work, and it's a true honor, man. It's a true honor. So, without further ado, let's please, Phil, tell folks who you are, please, where you grew up. We'll start there, and then I want to get into the origins of how you got started ice fishing.
Okay. Again, my name's Phil Badon. Grew up on the east side of St. Paul. I have one older brother, and I grew up by a lake called Lake Phelan. It was only 2, 3 blocks away from our house.
Wow, so close.
Very close. I was very lucky. Yep.
Hmm.
I did a lot of fishing during the summer in my younger days there. Lake Phelan, Keller, Jarvis, and such.
Jarvis,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. So, Phil, what how did because you don't wake up one day. No one wakes up one day and says, you know what I want to do today? I want to go ice fishing. I think people are very curious about it, but and we're going to get into this question on how do you get into ice fishing? Drew and our other podcast talked about that. And I think there's some challenges there. I think, and we'll talk about those too. But how did Phil Bedone, uh, how did you and your brother, your family, how did you get involved in ice fishing? What were the origins of that?
So again, I had an older brother that would fish with myself, my brother, and my dad. We would summer fish. We don't have a boat. We didn't have a boat, but we did have a 5 horse Sea King that he inherited from his father. So we summer fished a lot,
Hmm.
or at least on the weekends. Anyway, we'd go to a lake where you can rent a boat and we'd fish. How I got into ice fishing was a neighbor of mine 2 doors down. He decided to go buy a canvas portable ice fishing house. And when I mean
Hmm.
canvas, it was the real green. canvas.
Like what
Like,
they, like maybe what's on like docks, like fishing
yes,
docks, like like a fishing dock, like when people park their boat or like
exactly
that
that.
canvas, like industrial canvas.
Industrial canvas,
Wow.
not insulated, not, just true canvas. It was
Right.
4 holes.
Hmm.
And he brought me to a bait store called Larry's Light Bait, and that's where I bought my first jiggle stick. And what I mean
Hmm.
by jiggle stick, it didn't have a reel.
Yeah, and for folks who don't know, can you explain what a jiggle stick is?
Basically, it's a wooden doll with 2 pegs that you wrap your line around, and then of course you have your pole, and then your pole with the eyelets and
Yeah, I think there's just one eyelid at the tip of the
tip of
tip
the
of the wooden
pole.
doll.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and then you just wrap the line around it. It's
basic as
pretty
you can get.
basic, primitive, if you will. Yeah. Wow. Cool, man.
But we'd catch a lot of fish in it. On it, we literally tied our ice fishing house to a sled that had metal runners. We tied it with rope. We had a 5 gallon bucket with jiggle sticks in it, and we had a hand auger. Um, and we proceeded to walk down to Phelan Lake and walk all the way across the lake and drill holes and start the heater up, get the house ready, put it over the 4 holes that we drilled, and sit on a 5 gallon bucket all day till till evening. And when it got to be evening, we used candles for our
Hmm.
light source.
Right, right. Yeah, there was no, the technology is so advanced these days. You have a cell phone, you can light stuff up. The cameras that, or excuse me, the lights that you can just put on your forehead, or even hats have them on the cap here, the bill. I mean, the technology is incredible, and there's ice shelters that have, well, and for clam they sell the X series ice team that has the aurora lights, and we'll talk about that in
Hmm.
other podcasts. But basically, internal lights
Correct.
for those shelters, which are freaking awesome
Yeah.
shelters, man. They're fantastic. Wow. Well, cool, man. Yeah, I have a similar story. I grew up in Chicago. Obviously, there, you got Lake Michigan. It's kind of dangerous to ice fish on it because for a lot of reasons, even just getting down to the ice, is really dangerous. But growing up there, we fished. My dad, he took us outside of Chicago. My we had an uncle, may he rest in peace, we call him La Macha, and he actually had he was just he was this big. He was a big dude. He was like 6'5", big old mustache, wore a sombrero, and he was a big dude, and he had a hand auger, and he had like a little trailer out west in Illinois, and we would fish these. I don't even know the name of the lakes, Phil. That's how remote these places were. But that was my first experience ice fishing with a hand auger, and we didn't even have a shelter. We would just sit on buckets, and we would just sit there and just on top of the hole jigging. And dude, we didn't even have regular ice fishing rods. We had to use like the kids' rods because we didn't know you needed ice fishing rods. So my dad used the shortest rod he could, so because we didn't know, back then we just had no idea. And part of this podcast is educational. A lot of it is, and is to build capacity, build awareness in our communities. Um, so that's what we're going to get into, and we get a lot of questions. I'm sure you get a lot of questions as a professional ice angler. And let's talk a little bit about this year, Phil. It's been really challenging
Extremely challenging.
with lack of ice. Christmas, we were talking before the podcast opened. You said we had open water. Can you tell folks what that is? Because they're like, what is open water?
So prior to Christmas, the lakes have frozen over. So you can walk on them with your chisel and so forth, checking
Yep.
ice safety, checking thickness of the ice. And what happened is, we had a little bit of a cold front where the ice completely froze over, the lakes or rivers completely froze over. and then we had a big rain, and we had a heat spell and rain, and the lakes reopened. So you have your first ice where they froze over, then
Got
the
warm.
got warm,
Yeah.
lakes thawed, and then what, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they refroze over. So second ice. You had the first ice, now it's second ice. So it's been really challenging. I haven't been out as much as I'd like to. I mean, by now, I probably would have been out at least 30 times already, and I
Right.
basically have only been out about 10 times ice fishing.
Wow. Wow. So let's talk about that second ice out because Matt Johnson on our previous
Ice Team
yeah,
podcast.
Ice Team podcast, we he brought that up and he said he made such a great point of in his lifetime he's never seen it and there's a lot of people that have never seen this before. You know, it's like a first and it's really unique. It's pretty awesome actually. You know, I've never experienced this ever. Like lakes freeze, gets warm, open water, then they freeze again. You know, like that is unheard of,
Correct.
especially here in Minnesota. Once those lake freeze, they stay frozen until late March, April, and then you got ice out. Then we have open water fishing again, which is normal. Excuse me. Let's talk about this, Phil. So when that happens, do you feel as a professional ice angler, does that benefit the fish? And or does it help the fish? Does it help the angler? Does it help both? You know, if someone, our audience member is like, wow, I wonder if that affects, you know, the fishing or the fish, you know, like what would you say to something like that? Or what is your opinion on that?
So the fish haven't been pressured a whole lot because the lack of ice, or skinny ice, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, so
And can you tell folks what skinny ice is? Just because we're going to be using terms and a lot of folks aren't going to know, which is cool, you know? Yeah, so skinny ice.
basically is I don't want to say thin ice, but the thickness of the ice
Yeah, it's
is
thinner.
thinner.
Thinner,
Correct.
right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So please continue. So the fish, because there was not enough ice, you didn't have human beings or anglers on top of fish drilling holes, putting pressure on fish.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's good for the ecosystem and good for the fish. You know what I mean? That's really interesting. Nobody This is the first time this has ever happened. So really nobody knows unless you get out there and start fishing how that really has affected the fish. But you're right, like there's been a lack of pressure on fish. You know what I mean? And what does that mean? Does it mean that fish are going to be more aggressive, more agreeable? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that, Phil?
Not only is there a lack of ice, there's a lack of snow. So that light's still penetrating through the lake really well. There's the weeds are still healthy, green, they're upright. When you get a lot of snow on the ice, that means less oxygen in the lake, and then that's when the weeds die down, and then the fish go deeper.
Yeah, that healthy grass is really important. You know, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we haven't. I like the fact that we haven't had snow. Last year we got it. I believe, and I could please correct me if I'm wrong, folks. But I believe we got it started snowing the second weekend in October last year, and it didn't stop.
It did not stop.
It did not stop, and that made ice conditions and ice fishing not very good either.
It was challenging.
It was very challenging. Um, Phil, when you talk a little bit about when so for folks that are first starting ice fishing, I want to. This is a good segue to talk about safety. Let's talk
Okay.
a little bit about safety. I think safety is number one. You know, what when it comes to safety, what are some like things that you, as you've been doing this so long, what are some of the things that best practices that you, for somebody that's our audience that's listening, you know, I'm just getting started. what are some safety things that you would consider? Give me some safety tips. What would those like if you had like 10 commandments, if you will, right? What would those be?
Well, the first one would be a ice armor float suit. What I mean by that is the bibs and the jacket have flotation
Technology.
technology,
Hmm.
motion flow technology woven inside the suit. So if you happen to fall through, you'll remain buoyant.
Hmm.
You won't
Nice.
you won't go under. You'll remain buoyant like a life preserver,
Yeah, like a bobber.
like a bobber.
Like a
That's what I'm
bobber.
trying to say.
No,
Like
no,
like a
absolutely like a
bobber. Yep.
bobber. And what's really funny, Phil, you had mentioned this to me because like you're like a mentor to me. I mean, my ice fishing experience has been, I have quite a bit, but definitely not as much as you
Right.
and some of the guys on clam. But you had mentioned something really important about ice safety, and you said, Ray, I usually don't go fishing by myself,
That's correct.
because that's the first line of defense, right? Like, if you're gonna go ice fishing, you're like, man, would it be a good idea to call somebody and to go
Buddy
fishing with you?
system,
Right.
especially first ice. When the ice is less than a foot thick, it's definitely good to have a buddy system, a friend with that could throw you a rope if you happen to go through. Or so some of the essential things that you need are what's called ice picks. These ice picks go around your neck, and they connect or clip together,
Right
if you
around your
will.
neck, yeah.
And if you happen to go through, you just grab these picks and um, you
Stab the ice with,
stab the ice and
pull yourself forward.
kick as hard as you can and pull yourself forward. Those are must. A chisel before you even go on the ice. Start walking on the ice with your friend pulling your sled. You have a chisel that you every 2 to 3 steps you're chiseling the ice, because it might be 4 or 5, 6 inches here, but then 30 feet or 20 feet away, it could be 2 or 3 inches.
Right.
So if that spud bar, if that chisel goes through on one stab, you better turn around and walk back.
Right. Absolutely. And a spud bar is basically a big old metal stick that you wrap around your wrist. If you were a pole and you stab, and it's weighted for a reason, so it's sharp at the end.
Correct.
So that way, if you do stab it, two whacks is pretty good. On the second whack, if it's thin ice, man, that bar is going to go through. You
Correct.
know, yeah. It's interesting because when you go on lakes, and this is always the rule of thumb, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but when you are out ice fishing, you're out on a lake. Take a buddy. Okay, so you have your friend. You're using your spud bar to check on ice, which is great. You don't want to go that far, and you want to have a good idea of where it's really deep, right? Because the deep water or deep holes, if you will, freeze they freeze over, but not as fast as shallow water.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, like, because that's dangerous. So like someone's like, oh, I want to fish 40 foot. They start walking, and you can use your phone these days with like the DNR mobile app, like Fish Finder, or excuse me, DNR, like Lake Finder, excuse me. It shows you the topography, and it shows you the structure on your phone, and you can navigate, and you start going towards a deeper part of the lake. Well, would you agree that might be unsafe?
Absolutely.
So what
Yes.
would you recommend in that situation like that? Don't do it. You take your spud bar. I mean, what best practices are would you recommend in that situation if someone wants to fish deeper?
Well, talk to your local bait shop.
Hmm.
Talk to some, even if you don't know them, talk to people on ice. If you see somebody on the ice fishing and so forth, hey, hey Ray, or hey sir, what do you think about the ice over there? When it last froze over.
Hmm.
Um, that's what I typically do.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome. Safety. Going back to the bibs, our Baztec ice team is exclusively wears the ice armor, a clam ice armor suits, the float suits, and that is a piece of equipment, man, that is a must. You know, for so many reasons, but um, the other one you're talking about is your spikes around your neck, spud bar. Um, I also think that letting someone know where you're going, what lake you're on, like what side of the lake you're going to be fishing, and some folks move around like anglers, like you're that guy that likes to move around, and we'll talk about that with for those people that don't know certain terms when it comes to ice fishing. But I think it's a good idea to just let someone know, hey, I'm going to be on, for example, like Lake Minnewaska. We just did a seminar, a 2-day seminar with Campfire. Big shout out to them. They're great, great group of folks there. The staff is incredible. Um, the leadership team there is just, they're so much fun. And we did a classroom setting where we talked about safety, we talked about regulation, possession limits, gear. I mean, we talked a lot about a lot of different topics. And then the second day we actually did a field day where you go out and you test everything you've learned, all the equipment, everything. And it was cool watching everyone like get involved and really engage and actually doing all the things that are required to ice fish. You know, from sitting outside in a bucket to putting up a shelter with propane, you know, all of it. You know what I mean? And it was really fun. It was really, really fun. But one of the things was safety. Going back to the safety, the theme here is incredibly, incredibly important. Um, moving on. So we get this question a lot, Phil. It might be related to safety, but I got I've got this question a lot recently. They said, Ray, what I'm getting started ice fishing. What what is the one piece of equipment that's really critical, that's important? And I'm gonna be honest with you, Phil. Full disclosure, I was like, uh, I had a hard time answering that because there's so much to it, to ice fishing. But what would you say is, because I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I mean, what's your take on that?
I believe the float suit's probably the most important piece of equipment you can have, in my
Hmm.
opinion, especially this year with the ice, um, kind of being not as thick as past years. Obviously, I mean, past years, shoot, we'd probably have at least 18 inches in the metro. I would say at least 18 inches in the
Mm,
metro, driving full size trucks, driving permanent ice houses on lakes. So, again, to answer your question, for
yeah.
me personally, I think a float suit is a must. Ice Hummer float suit.
Hmm. Yeah. And we, at Clam, you know, uh, in my opinion, and you would probably agree, makes the best float suit on the market today. You know, incredible technology. Sean, the designer, big shout out to him. He's phenomenal,
Does a
and
great job.
he does a phenomenal job. Big shout out to you, Sean, for all the great work you do and the amazing designs that he comes up with. And he's just a brilliant dude. So big shout out to him. And for folks that are interested, uh, we're going to be putting, we have, uh, we'll be putting what kind of float suits on the podcast afterwards. What do we wear? What designs we specifically like? We, as a pro staff at a Baztec Ice team, we really, really like the Delta suit. I love that suit. That thing is awesome with the fleece lining and the float technology.
Very comfortable,
God,
easy to maneuver, easy to bend down and so forth. Like
yes,
you're on your knees, getting a tip up or jigging next to your hole.
yeah,
Very nice, very durable, very warm.
yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. And if I was asked the same question, I would have to agree. I think the float suit is number one. You know, you gotta have a good, you gotta have good float suit. And honestly, man, the excuse me, the other piece of equipment, if I had to choose one, uh, man, the spikes around your neck. I mean, spud bar. I mean, I don't know if I can go ice fishing without it. Those are essential. You know, rods and reels. I mean, we can get into that on a different show, but safety is paramount. It's number one, man. You know, and it's especially like you were saying this year, man, with the skinny ice, which is it just means thin ice. It's a lot of people were concerned about that. You know, when we were doing the seminars, we had 10 inches of ice. We measured it 10 inches, man. So that was pretty cool.
Right.
You know, there was a dude out there moving a sauna because the Minnewaska, we're right on Lake Minnewaska campfire, and they have the sauna camp right on the edge of the lake. So you had folks with these outdoor sauna, basically contraptions. They're all made of wood. Looks like a big old, I don't know, just a big structure. You go in, you sweat, and then you dive into the lake. It's actually,
Ooh,
yeah,
that
dude.
sounds like fun.
It was crazy. It was really cool to see that, and something that people have been doing for you know hundreds of years. You know, in Europe, people have been doing that for a long time. That's just an old custom. You know, so it was cool watching that. And then there was a dude with a Cherokee pulling. You know, one of those I don't know what they call them. They just sauna, like a portable sauna thing, and he had a truck on the ice, man. That's how much,
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's how much ice there was out there, dude.
Wow.
It was crazy. I was like, damn, that dude's nuts,
Right.
you know. But he was not very, like, he was maybe 20, 30 yards into the lake, maybe. So that ice was at least 10, 12 inches, thick. So he was fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was safe. I think he was cool, but I don't know. I don't know if I would take my truck.
Right. Right.
My big old truck.
I
That would,
would though.
yeah. So no, but transitioning from ice, let's talk about just ice fishing in general. What does somebody, if you want to just get started, because we're gonna get this question a lot. What does a community member, someone from our audience, um, what do they need to get started? Phil, like what are some of just the basic things that they need to actually start, like just get out on the ice, you know? And let's just say they don't have a float suit, but they know. And I'm gonna throw you a curveball. Let's just say you got someone like, oh man, those float suits are cool, but man, I can't afford that right now.
Sure.
Okay, completely reasonable. Wear something that is comfortable and warm. Let's start
Hopefully
there.
waterproof.
Hopefully waterproof. But what are some pieces of equipment, Phil, that someone from our community is going to need just to get started? Bare minimum, what do they need?
Bare minimum, you're gonna need either a hand auger where you drill a hole by hand, or a power auger, a gas auger, some sort of an auger. You're gonna need to drill a hole.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need a basic rod and reel, clamshells them.
Mm-hmm.
A basic one, what I mean by that is like a panfish rod would be like a medium light or a light, like a 500 series reel would be like a Shimano.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a small,
Yeah,
super small reel. Yeah, because the
absolutely.
thousands, and it goes 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. The bigger the number, the bigger the reel. The bigger the spool, line capacity, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay.
Auger,
So we got an auger,
couple rods,
couple
basic
rods.
rods.
Yeah. Okay. So we
Probably
got that.
costs you about $30 for a combination rod and reel.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need some tungsten jigs or jigs
Mm.
to tie onto that line where you can put your bait on.
So for folks that don't know what that is, tungsten, and and the reason, like, as experts in this subject, fishing and ice fishing, some folks probably were like, "What is tungsten? Is that a kind of rod or reel? What is that?" It's a kind of steel, but why would folks want to use that, Phil, instead?
So fish are typically schooled up in a small school. and fish roam quickly. Like when you drill holes, fish fish will stay there for a little while and then they'll move. So a tungsten jig allows you to drop, put bait on the tungsten jig, um, maybe a minnow, maybe a waxworm, and we'll get into that, and then drop it. It drops down rather quickly to get to that school of fish.
Hmm.
And then when you reel one up, when you catch one and reel it up,
Hmm.
you take off that fish, and then get back down quickly to that
Hmm.
back to that school of fish.
Yeah, and tungsten is more dense. That's the other thing. It's more dense.
It is.
So it gets down quicker. It's a smaller profile, which gets down even quicker because it's heavier. It doesn't have as much drag, and drag is basically as it drops, basically. Versus the other thing. Let's talk about the environmental aspect of those particular jigs. Yeah, you can go by lead, but that's environmentally not good, especially for like loons. There's a big movement called Getting the Lead Out. Big shout out to the folks at PCA. My buddy Stephen Yang, he's one of the coordinators. He's a big supporter of Baztec, and he hooks us up, man, with like these non-lead, non-toxic jigs. And actually, I'm going to talk to him about. And I've been trying to, we've been so behind on ice fishing that it would be nice to. I know they have those, so we're going to be giving some of that stuff away at some of our programs.
Okay.
We give them away at our open water programs. I think they do have non-lead, non-oxygenated, no, excuse me, non-lead, non-toxic, excuse me, little jig heads, you know, uh, which are fantastic. I think that's a great program that they have. There's a lot of conservation behind it and stewardship, and I think that's a big part of fishing. Wouldn't you agree, Phil?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So all right. So Phil's out there. You know, we got a person who's got rain, some sort of something that keeps you warm that's waterproof. Um, they got some sort of rod and reel, but what if they don't have enough resources to purchase that? Would you recommend a jiggle stick?
Jiggle stick will work just fine.
Yeah, jiggle stick's good. Okay, so then you got.
Relatively inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. You can make your own too. That's the other thing. You can Google how to do that. It's not hard. I think it's like three holes, one at the tip, and then two for to hold your line. That's it,
Correct.
I believe. Isn't that
Yep.
right? I think.
Think you are.
Yeah. So, um, real quick, I want to give a shout out. People that have been listening are going to be like, "Hey, what are those guys drinking? What are we drinking, Phil? What do we got here?"
Shells, Green Belt
Yeah,
Premium.
Rainbow Premium Lights, a great American lager. Cheers, my brother. Great shout out to Shells and this delicious beer that they provided us. We have we have this bucket right here that has some ice and some beer in it. They actually had a promo. I think the promo's over, I believe, where they had the bucket and a case of beer for like $40.
I think it's a 6 gallon bucket or a
Yeah,
7 gallon bucket filled with a case of Grain Belt Light, and these things flew out of the liquor stores.
oh, that's
How was
good.
it?
That's good. I think I need another one. I think I need another one. Phil, can I get you another one? Okay, grab one more here. Um, all right, look at that. That's cool, man. So yeah, this is really nice and convenient. You can be sitting on your bucket, I don't know what's going to be in your bucket. Maybe it's beer. I don't know.
You don't know.
You don't
You
know.
never.
Never know. But big shout out to our supporter, or sponsor. Um, this is a great promo. Uh, check out their beer. They have just awesome beer. I think right now they have the Bach, their Bach beer right now, and that stuff is really good. So, but I'm a big fan of light beer, so I wanted to give you some lawnmower beer, Phil, lawnmower beer, because I know you're a big fan of Grain Belt. We had
Absolutely.
our pro staff. Well, what would you call it? Not necessarily a Christmas party, but it was just at Frankie's
Oh yeah,
Pizza. Dude, how did you like that deep dish?
it was delicious.
Isn't
I
that
haven't had
good?
deep dish in years.
So good, bro. Chi-town style. It was I thought it was really good, man. I we go to that place all the time. It's phenomenal. Um, the uh, the food is great, and I don't know. I just really like the vibe of that place. We were drinking grain belts while we were there.
We were.
That was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was good. It was really good. Um, you know, going back to gear and going back to getting going back to ice fishing. One piece of equipment. That's not necessarily equipment, Phil, but something that you're gonna need regardless, is a fishing license.
Forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes,
fishing
that's the first
license.
step.
That's the first thing you should get.
First step.
First thing. Now, for folks that are wondering, hey Ray, hey Phil, how much does a fishing license cost? $26, about 26 or $27. You can purchase them. Holiday gas station sells them. You can go to Fleet Farm. Where else? Joe's Sporting Goods. Big shout out to Joe's. They're a supporter of ours. Any store that sells um, fishing equipment, Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, there's
Most bait
Cabela's, yeah,
shops,
bait shops, local bait shops.
local bait shops.
Or you can go to the DNR, 500 Lafayette Road, downtown St. Paul. You can go there and get yourself all squared up. And I also recommend getting a regulation book. You should always have that with you. And folks should always remember you should always have your fishing license on your person. Physically, it's a piece of paper. It'll have the number 24 on it for 2024. You have legally you if you're fishing, you have to have it on it. If you don't, here's a tip: take a picture of it, have it on your phone, um, or store it on your phone. I think you get an email receipt or something like that. Keep it on your phone, but you have to legally have it on you.
You do.
You know. Um, Here's another thing, Phil. Uh, can you if answer this question? How many rods can you fish with during ice fishing season? Because a lot of folks in our community don't know this answer. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So during the winter ice fishing, you can legally, in the state of Minnesota, use up to two ice fishing rods. So you can have two lines in the water
Right.
versus one, like one in the summer.
One for open water
One for
fishing.
open water fishing, yes.
So Phil, if I'm new to ice fishing and I'm like, hey, what is that concoction right there? Tip up. Huh, what is a tip up? And we'll get more into that, right? We can save that for a different show.
Yes.
We'll break down tip ups and stuff. But a
Yes.
tip up is basically a contraption where it's a static mechanism that you can use. It has a little flag, and once you get bit, a flag goes up indicating that you caught a fish. You can use you can fish with a rod and a tip up simultaneously,
Correct.
legally, which is freaking awesome. I mean, think about that. That's really cool. A lot of folks don't know that. You know, when Phil, when you are fishing and let's just say you have a shelter, do you prefer to have the tip up outside of your shelter? Excuse me, or inside, outside? What do you prefer?
Well, typically they're designed to be outside.
Mm,
So you could be, if you're in your ice fishing house, you could be jigging for walleye or sunfish or perch or whatever you want to jig for.
hmm.
And you look out the windows of your ice fishing shack
Sure.
to, I mean, and then, yeah, look out the windows to, see if your flag goes up. And again, as soon as your flag goes up, that's an indicator you have a fish that bit on your line
Nice,
hook.
nice. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get into that on more shows. We're going to be recording hopefully one of these weekly, and talk about ice conditions. Let's talk about current ice conditions, Phil. Right now, it's warming up, but we still have a solid 10 inches of ice on some metro lakes. Some from the reports, what are you getting out in the community on metro lakes and outside of the metro lakes?
So Metro Lakes, from what I heard, some of my friends from Clam and some of my friends at the bait stores, a solid 10 or 11 inches of ice.
Wow, that's
Um,
cool.
I was fishing the St. Croix River over the weekend on Sunday, and it was super windy. That was a
Hmm.
struggle. That was a challenge. Very
Hmm.
windy, but I did measure most spots were 10 inches, a couple of spots were 7 inches of ice.
On the river on the now people that are listening are like, what in the hell?
I know. The
You're
river, the St. Croix River does freeze over. And yes, there is current in the river.
yes.
To be very, very careful. And again, that's why we always preach safety first. You have your picks, you have your spud bar, you have your float suit. I'm out there with a friend of mine. We're walking on the ice, so buddy system.
Yeah. God, man. You know, that's like that's terrifying for some people, like especially the a river system, you know. Yeah, would you mind sharing your story that fish that you caught, that paddlefish that you caught? That dude, that's one hell of a story. Can you share that with the folks in our viewers and folks in the community? Because that's I love that story, man.
Well, I'll give you a quick synopsis. So, approximately 6 years ago, a friend of mine from Clam, we were fishing on the St. Croix River. It was New Year's Day, and we were fishing for panfish and for walleyes. And approximately 2 or 3 hours,
Hmm.
into our fishing adventure, um, I I have a rod next to me with a with plain hook, a bobber, and a minnow on it. And this hole right next to me are my main hole. I'm jigging, so I'm attracting the fish. I have a lure on that's noisy and
Hmm.
attracts the fish. Fish hear it, they're curious, and they
Hmm.
come swimming over and want to know what's going on. So in doing that, I have a fish locator, and we'll go into that another time.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But I have a sonar, a fish locator, and I'm jigging, and I can see my jig on my fish locator, on my fish finder. And as I'm jigging, I see this big red mark on my fish locator, which indicates there's a big fish beneath the
There's an
ice.
object
Big
coming
object.
coming towards your presentation, your offering, your bait. Yeah.
That's correct.
Wow.
And I hooked into this fish, and I knew it was rather large right away. As soon as I set the hook, um, I started to reel my line in, and it was like reeling a log. I mean, I mean, and I had a lightweight rod and reel, so I had like a medium light um, rod and with like 4 pound test line.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a panfish
Sure.
slash walleye.
Sure. Sure.
I had my drag set loose so it could pull the line out. It could pull the drag,
Sure.
so pull the line out. Now the river flows south, so this fish is going rather large fish is going south with the
With
current.
the current, yeah.
So I'm fighting this fish. I thought I had a nice walleye. I really did. I thought I had a nice walleye for a couple minutes, and then I said to my friend, I says, "Oh, I think I have a sturgeon because I've caught sturgeon fishing the St. Croix, not purposely, but they bit my lure. They're bottom feeders, and they bit
Sure.
my lure. So approximately, and I'm not lying, approximately 25 minutes into me battling this fish, I got it close to the hole, and again, I'm standing up and I'm standing up looking down the hole. My friend jumps on the ice on his knees and he looks down the hole and he saw the head of the fish. I didn't.
Mm.
And he stood up and he goes, "Holy cow, Phil,
He said,
you
"Holy cow."
no." He said something
Is it
else.
something else? Something more
Yes.
colorful.
Yes.
I get
Definitely
you.
more
Yeah, more
colorful.
colorful. Yeah.
Holy, you know what?
Yes,
You have
yes.
a monster.
Yeah.
And he ran about 30 feet and he grabbed his power auger. Brr, brr. He pulled it, and 3 times he pulled it and it started. So he started the auger, and I'm fighting this fish in an 8-inch hole. He proceeds to drill 5 more 8-inch holes to make one big mammoth hole. But the holes were
And weird.
kind of weird
Yeah,
sequence, if you
right,
will.
right. Because you're fighting and you're probably moving around, right?
Yeah,
It
the cut my
right, because if
line,
he goes, it'll cut your line.
right,
Like, I mean,
instantly.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'd say there was at least a foot of ice where we were at the time. And again, I proceeded to fight it. So I'm already 25 minutes into it. Then another 20 minutes later, um, I'm still fighting it, and my hands are freezing. They're really cold. So I just tightened up the drag a little more, and then
Just leaned into
just
him.
leaned into
Yeah,
them, and
nice and easy.
nice and easy.
Yeah.
What did I now? I finally, for the second time, I get the fish to the hole, and I'm looking down it, and my friend's looking down, and I'm yelling at him, "Grab the fish! Grab the fish!" And what ended up happening, my friend was afraid to grab the fish because he thought the fish was a gar, and gar have teeth.
Yeah,
So he
the short nose gar and long nose gar. Either way, if you grab him by the mouth, you're gonna be in some pain, man.
so he was afraid to grab the fish,
Right,
rightfully
right.
so. So I set my rod down and I like grabbed the bill,
Yeah, yeah.
the snout of the
Basically, it's like if I'm the fish and the bill's right here. Yeah, dude. I've seen those things. It's a freaking dinosaur.
oh, it's prehistoric fish,
Prehistoric.
yeah,
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
yeah. So I grab the fish, kind of the
The bill,
snout,
yeah,
the
the snout,
bill,
because they don't have teeth. Those
the
fish don't have
don't
teeth.
no.
Yeah.
So I grabbed it, I pulled I mustered half of it out. Then my friend dove on the ice and he grabbed the back end of it and he pulled it out. And I didn't know what a
Paddlefish.
paddlefish was.
Right,
I've
right.
never seen one in person before,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
staring at it and staring at it.
You're
This
like, what the hell is that
it
thing?
was mammoth.
Dude, I seen a picture of it, bro. I was like, what the blink? And I
Right.
was like, and it was both you guys, it was you holding it, and I mean, dude, that thing was enormous.
It was.
What, over 50 pounds?
So I'm gonna send in a photo into the
Yeah.
DNR, and hopefully they can give me a good estimate. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't have a tape measure, I didn't have a ruler, I didn't have anything.
You guys were fishing for crappies, man.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And you look into a mammoth.
Yep.
Oh my
So
God.
that's a protected fish. So we
It
got,
is.
we got some few good pictures.
And then release the fish
Release the fish
back
right
into
away.
captivity,
Yes.
you know.
So to be clear, gar sift their food. They silt and so forth.
So you're talking about
I'm
paddlefish.
sorry, did I say gar?
Yes,
I
that's
mean
okay. No, that's okay.
paddlefish.
It's,
Uh,
we don't have to edit. You don't
yeah,
have to edit on. So
paddlefish. So
they
paddlefish.
swim with their mouth open and take in through their gills. They eat zooplankton, phytoplankton, nutrients, different kinds of organic matter. So yeah, man.
So I kind of the hook snagged into his paddle.
Sure.
So that's how I caught it.
What were you fishing with? Because that is a strong lure, man.
Guys, it was just this little tungsten crappie jig.
Mm,
Small,
mm.
very small.
Wow,
Just a
dude.
small little guy. Yeah,
That's incredible, man.
little small crappie jig, little small
Wow.
tungsten jig. Yeah,
Oh my God, dude. Thank you for sharing that story.
it's amazing. It's a catch of
It
a
was a
lifetime.
catch of a lifetime. Absolutely, man. I remember you showing me the pictures and I was like, I couldn't believe it. So you asked me before the podcast about somebody about someone at the DNR. So big shout out to my buddy Mario Traveling. Really awesome dude. I gave you his email. You're
Yes.
gonna email him to see like what.
The length and
Yeah, right,
girth, and hopefully
right,
approximately how much it weighed.
right,
He would say it's definitely over 50 pounds on a 4 pound test line.
right on, man.
Getting it through a series of holes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
started
yeah.
off with an 8 inch hole. Again, my friend drilled five more 8 inch holes to get this fish through.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. Wow. I think it's. I'm gonna take a moment here before we start wrapping up
Okay.
because we've talked a lot.
Yeah.
I just
This is
wanted to share
great.
the story, man,
No,
before we kind of get conclude here. But one of the things that we're going to be doing at Baztec, we have merch that we're going to be selling. Hats is Baztec. We're going to have hats. We're going to have hoodies. We're going to, and we're giving stuff away too. Our friends at Shells, which we're going to check this out, you guys. This is going to be super cool. We're going to be giving away a package of stuff. You get a hoodie, this Grainbow hoodie. Check that out. That is has the it's co-branded with Grainbow and Clam. That's pretty freaking sweet. Got the augers and stuff. We're gonna be giving this thing away along with, dude. This hat is so warm. Clam hat. Ooh, and then we're also giving you, look at that, little coaster.
oh,
Some,
look at
dude. We're
that.
giving away like this is a whole package deal. So if you want to get this package, here's what you're gonna do. You're going to subscribe, and share. Excuse me. Like, subscribe, and share. If you're already subscribed, like our video now today, share it. That will put you in, and you will literally automatically enter to win this thing
This
right here.
package.
This package right here. It's pretty freaking sweet, man. Look at this thing here. This is awesome. Yeah.
Cozy.
Yeah, a little koozie, man. Look at that. Friendly fish or whatever. It's pretty cool, man. So yeah, this is, dude, this is great stuff.
Very nice.
Yeah, so we're giving this away free. Again, like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends. And we're gonna pick a winner like in a week or two. And we'll email you, we'll say, hey, meet us here, or we'll send us your address and we'll send you this little package deal. So it's really exciting. And we're gonna be doing that stuff too with other Shell's brands and products. Um, and also Baztec swag. Our audience, once they like, subscribe, and share, automatically win. They enter to automatically win some swag, and everyone loves swag, man.
Everybody loves
Everyone
swag.
loves the swag. So, Phil, dude, it's thank you so much, man. It's been great chatting with you. I guess I want to ask you, do you have any last words for, again, this is our first podcast of the year. Excuse me. Uh, and if you have any last words to novice or beginning ice anglers, anything else you want to share before we conclude here today's podcast?
Sure. First of all, again, I like to thank you for giving the opportunity to join your pro staff.
It's an honor to have you, man. It really is, brother.
I'm excited about Baztec Ice Team. I just avid fisherman, love to ice fish, love to teach people, love to educate people. So, for anybody that's just getting into ice fishing, reach out to myself, reach out to Ray, go to your local bait shops. They'll be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. Well, Phil, thank you very much for doing this. A lot of fun. We're going to be doing, I'll conclude with this. We're going to be doing our podcast weekly, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about different topics. I would highly recommend our community uh, out there to send us questions, topics that you want you want us to cover. We have we're going to have different guests here on the podcast, different professional anglers, uh, just folks that are just amazing at ice fishing and open water fishing. And we're going to have a lot of content, but we also would, as much as you can be an expert, but we also feel we want that feedback,
Definitely.
and we want to be told, hey, could you guys cover, like, just do a show on augers? Hey, do a show on rods, or can you guys do if you guys are doing an hour show, can you do 30 minutes on this topic and 30 minutes on that topic? I think that's, or just one topic in general, or multiple topics, whatever it is. We That's what we're here for. Like Phil was saying, we're here to educate. We're here to help anglers grow and evolve, and that's part of why we got started in fishing, is to give back to our communities, give back to the folks that support us and tune in and listen to us. So, with that said, Phil, Lassie, cheers, my friend. Salud.
Salute.
Thank you so much, and we'll see
My
you at
pleasure.
Salud. We'll see you at next week's. Tune in for next week. I think Phil and I will be here, maybe with somebody else. We don't know who that's going to be.
Right.
You're going to have to tune in, find out.
Tune in, please.
Please tune in. So remember, please hit that like button, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget we're going to be giving that swag away here in the next couple of weeks. Cheers. Salud. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Salud.